Welcome back to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. I am, as always, Chat Show. How the hell are you? We've got such a great guest today. I think he and I may have danced around the notion of him doing this show for a couple years, but when we see each other, it's like we shared a foxhole in Nam, and we're super excited, which we'll get to momentarily. We're coming to you today from the Earwolf Studios. Come on by. It's on Hollywood, in Hollywood on Sunset, right across from the Netflix building. You can't miss that one. It says money out front. Come on by. The folks would love to meet you. Tell them I sent you. Sammy and Jamie not here. I think Sam said I'm working, and I believed him. So that's on me. And Jamie, I think, had to go to Costco. Oh, the truth serum. So welcome to the show. Please let us know how you consume us. Write to us at kpcsfanmail@gmail.com. What was that? Sure, I'll repeat it. kpcsfanmail@gmail.com. KPCS, of course, standing for proud of you. Recent guests, you ask? You want to enjoy a few past shows? Shall I invite you in that way? How about a couple of very recent Academy Award winners in Allison Janney and Sam Rockwell? Or if you want the longest on-camera interview Elon Musk has ever given, for fuck's sake, try that one. Or from a week ago, Maria Bamford. And then there's hero and friend Ricky Gervais. For those of you who give a good goddamn, including our guest today, we're in the middle of shooting episode 2 of season 2 of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. So I'm winging back and forth to Gotham, which try the JetBlue Mint. Couldn't suggest it higher. Boy, oh boy, have they figured that out. And I'm getting nothing to say that other than thank you. And it's, so far the Maisel is living up to expectations, which I'm guessing are high, given the first season and the response therein, or thereof. Hey, how about a couple of your fan mail? Since you're so kind enough to write to us, I'm just going to read a couple. Because this one, hot off the press. I was listening today via Airwolf Podcast, for the record, to your interview with Maria Bamford. When you were discussing success and ambition, it reminded me of a quote I read about Peter Cook. Someone once asked him, "You are arguably the funniest English comedian of your generation. Why do you think you haven't been more successful?" Oh, fucking worst question ever. To which Peter Cook replied, "I get up in the morning, I fix myself some breakfast, I go out to the solarium and read the Times. How much more successful do you want me to be?" This fan goes on to write, "I'm a great fan of the show, the audio version, because I'm usually driving or doing housework or something where I want to be diverted. I enjoy the genuine interest you seem to have in your guests' lives." Interesting use of the word seem. "And I even enjoy the sort of insider gossip about craft service and bad auditions, and even though they have nothing to do with my life, I come away feeling that I've learned something, often about a person whose work I was unfamiliar with, or finding new depths to a person you might think you already know a lot about. Your interview last year with Jamie Lee Curtis is an excellent example of that. Keep up the great work. Best wishes to you and the KPCS family," which reminds me, I haven't heard any updates lately about your intern who was so grievously injured a while back. Sincere, Ned Wood. Brian is the intern's name. He's doing great. In fact, came by the show not too long ago. His spirits simply could not have been better. He was helping someone out whose car was pulled to the side of the road. And as they stood at the front of that car, or the back of it, I'm not sure, but another car came along and slammed into them, taking one of his legs away from him for the rest of his life. No good deed goes unpunished, I think goes the term. Or it will remind me of one of my favorite jokes. Father and son walking down the sidewalk. They see two dogs making sweet, sweet love. And the 6-year-old son says, "Hey, Dad, what are you supposed to do in that?" And the father says, yeah, right. Okay. How? You see the one on the back there? The one on the back, he hurt his front paws. He hurt his front paws, and the one on the front is helping him to the hospital. And the kid says, just like life, huh, Dad? You help somebody out, and they fuck you in the ass. Now, listen, I got a laugh from our engineer, Mary, so I'm relieved that I chose such salty language so early in the day. All right. Thank you, Ned Wood, for your email, fan mail, what have you. I feel remiss keeping our guest waiting here through yet another one, so I'm going to get to him now. He goes to me by the name Tucker, but you probably know him as Jonathan Tucker. And if you're watching the new season of Westworld, you're extremely excited. Welcome, Tucker. I just know you as Tucker. As you
Kevin
insisted.
Pollak.
As you insisted every single time we addressed each other. It's Tucker.
I'm thrilled to be here, man.
Hey, buddy.
You're one of my favorite people.
Oh, now
it's just so easy to this one. I don't know if people don't get to know you or they're listening somewhere else.
Well,
Kevin Pollak is one of the most likable, affable, easygoing, funniest dudes going. Funniest dudes in town.
You're answering my first question. We met in 2005 when you were 21 or 2.
God.
What do you remember about working with me? What sort of example did I set, would you say, or none at all? And also, I should point out, I'm number 2 in the call sheet, Bruce Willis number 1, but my character is out cold 73% of the film.
You did a great job playing that. What do I remember? God, that's funny. That was we had a great time with that show.
Yeah, we did.
I'm gonna go see that director, and my wife has to go to London for work, so I'm gonna
Florent?
I'm gonna go see Florent.
Really?
Next week.
That's exciting as hell.
Yeah, I can't wait to see him. He was like this hot shot, for your people listening. He was kind of this hot shot French director who got
The Nest.
He had this amazing action film called The Nest. He's gone on and done some really fantastic French films.
I have not kept track at all.
Yeah, really. He's got one about the French-Algerian conflict that was like.
Epic.
It's like because it's the French Vietnam, and they haven't really told it in a meaningful way, and he
nails it.
Well, he pulls all the scars off.
Yeah,
because that's an embarrassing conflict for them. The same way we have a hard time digesting Vietnam. But he was a great director, and running around with Bruce Willis for 3.5 months in Topanga Canyon with guns and fire and everything else.
Crazy Ben Foster.
It was a blast.
Yeah. How did you come to that gig meeting with Florent Seri?
My manager, my longtime manager, this incredible woman named Bo Shoot, with whom I worked for 25 years, something crazy like that, because I started working when I was 11.
Yeah.
And through a lot of serendipity, I ended up with her. And she just recently retired. She was kind of a hotshot manager with a very select group of clients. And see how that was like a backhanded compliment to myself.
I'm all in it.
Okay, good. I did not actually mean that like that. But she was very good friends with Hawk Koch. They had known each other for a long time, and Hawk is a kind of legendary producer in town. He was the head of the Academy of Motion Pictures, maybe the head of the DGA too at one point.
Yeah, I think so.
Or the Producers Guild, and he was the producer on Hostage, and so I came in and had a meeting with Florent and everybody else, and kind of kicked my way up. But it's funny. I'm thinking about. I'm going through some of the reasons why I like Kevin Pollak so much, and I'm kind of thinking about it. It's like we share so many similarities in the sense that we've been doing this for a long time.
Yes,
and you get very empathetic when you're in this business for a long time because you have these great highs.
Yeah.
And then you have these periods of real disappointments and challenges.
Keep it together lows.
You really get to see who your friends are.
Yes.
Who calls you back. It's crazy because it's like you have a movie. It's like you have a show, right? You're Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. It's a hotshot show. You're getting all these awards. You're getting all this press. It's amazing. People call you right back, man. Don't they? It's like and then a few years go by.
It's true. I am hearing from people I haven't heard from in a while.
You hear from that, and that's nice.
Who always cared, but
I'm talking about the people that I'm talking about people who are picking up the call or because you're doing well.
Right.
On their radar.
Sure.
And but it gives you a more holistic understanding of the world and what your place is in it.
Good point.
And I think it makes, if you can get through this the way that you have, the way that I have,
survive the lows.
Yeah, you kind of really just try. You start understanding what's really important.
Right.
Which is your craft, your friends, your family,
your life.
Yeah. I recently had a project where it's like I had met with them and 3 months later I met with them. I think I'm totally right for. And they start offering it to all my friends, right? So, and that's fine. I get it, man. This is the business. There's you think Matt Damon isn't pissed off he didn't get a role here or there.
Right.
It's like, why can't I? Why does Leonardo DiCaprio get it? Then the next, a year later, Leonardo DiCaprio's like, I didn't even get to read this script that Matt Damon's doing. So it's all relative. But
it goes up and down the scale.
It goes up and down. Yeah. So I'm watching my buddies get offered this role. It's for sure my role in my heart. And 3 months go by, and they still haven't. They're still like shooting it out for offers. I'm like, guys, I'm the right person for this
So
role.
right here in front of your face.
And then they're like, hey, can you meet with the director on Wednesday? And it was a Friday. I'm like, I'm going to. I planned a trip to Ireland with my mom, my dad, and my wife.
The answer's no.
The answer's no.
Yeah.
And it's not because I don't love the role and the project, but like if you can't wait a week for me,
Right. After 3 months.
I'm 35 years old. I'm not moving my mom and dad are gonna die. Like, I'm happily married. God willing, we'll have children. But like, I'm not.
Yeah.
This is my life, man. I'm not gonna look back and say, oh, I'm canceling my trip to Ireland for a meeting with a director on Wednesday. I'll fly to New York. I'll fly to London. I'll go anywhere in the world a week from now. I'll do it on my own dime.
Yeah.
I care about the work, and I want to get good jobs and tell great stories. But like, you got to protect your life.
Well, I'm directing now, and if I want an actor and an actor says that to me, I wait.
Maybe.
Or I make a point of getting to him before he leaves for Ireland.
Sure. Or guess what? Maybe there's somebody else who comes to the room and they're better for the job and it works out. It's all good.
Right.
Like, it all works out.
You found the sweet spot in what you've just described.
Whew, I hope
No,
so.
you have. You have, because you're gainfully employed, honestly.
Yeah.
I forgot to ask off air because I didn't want if there's not great news to be on the microphone. But I just worked with your pal Mark O'Brien.
Yes.
So I'm
So Mark is a
crazy
wonderful
curious
Canadian
about
actor
the
who plays my younger brother on a Showtime pilot set in the 90s with Kevin Bacon and Aldous Hodge and a really interesting young Boston writer named Chuck McLean.
Don't tell me they still haven't made up their fucking mind yet.
I would just say that I think there's a really lovely shot that Mark and I will be back here sitting at Earwolf Studios. Come on by. It's across from Netflix.
Yes.
Sign money. Tell them Kevin Pollak sent you. I think there's a good shot that we'll be here in the fall saying how nice it is to shoot our pilot. But, look, again, just like life, I mean, that's what's so great about like the entertainment business in some respects, is you have to kind of find this middle because just like life, you think something's happening, it's a total certainty for sure, and then you realize very quickly, no, it looks very good.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised. Like, I would say I would be surprised, and then I always end up
So you haven't
getting-
shot the pilot yet?
We shot the pilot.
Oh, you did?
We shot
Okay,
the
that's
pilot.
what I thought.
Pilot's great.
That's what I thought.
Matt Damon, Ben Affleck are producing it. Jennifer Todd
You got
producing it.
You got the Bacon man.
It's great, man. It's all good. And if it doesn't go,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, what am I gonna do? The only thing I can control is my work, and I've been able to separate that in my heart and in my mind and in my spirit from employment.
Right. How
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Because people come to me all the time. People who've been working for a long time as actors.
Yeah.
And they say, I haven't worked in forever. I haven't had a job. I haven't had auditions. Like, well, you can't control the job. The job, you're going to go up for, unless you're going to write or you're going to, But if you're just like, as an actor, you can get up every day and work. You can work every day. A few hours a day even is all you really need. You can sleep pretty well. But most actors don't get up and work because they think their work is either an audition,
right,
or they think work is like getting a job. But how's your accent work? How's your physical work? Like, are you in Sam French getting a play? Are you reading? Are you in class? There's like so much stuff you can do,
right,
to work. And boy, does that put you to sleep at night because it's hard, man,
Yeah.
as an actor. If you're not having an audition or you don't have a job,
even if you don't think you'd be any good at it, try to write something. Just try.
Yeah,
Just
sure.
try. If you're not creating, you're waiting. That's
Yes.
the fucking deal.
But also,
man.
that part of that is not just writing. Like, you need to also be working as an actor.
Yeah.
Like, really.
Yeah.
Right, for sure. It's like there's a lot of time in the day.
Yeah.
Get up,
Yeah.
sure, write for a few hours, and memorize a monologue.
Right.
Learn an accent.
Yeah.
Learn a new skill. I mean, I'm up in this. I'm working with this guy named Taryn. The name of the thing's Taryn Tactical. Taryn's the kind of hotshot shooter up there, and he trains all these great actors for gigs. And I'm like, well, I should go up there and like learn how to shoot now, so I'm not playing catch up.
Learning how to shoot.
Firing weapons. He's
I
like
see.
a Glock specialist.
Didn't I see you on some range where you have to pick up the weapon, shoot six
Yeah, that's
things,
him. That's
and then
Taryn.
that's the guy?
Yeah, and I just want to be good at that. If
Do you
I
know
get a
Zoe
gig.
Bell, the great stunt woman?
She
does all Quentin Tarantino and Kill Bill.
Yeah.
Did all
I think she might
Uma
work.
Thurman. So I saw
I
she
think she's
also
up there,
posted
right,
an
yes.
Instagram thing of her on that same exact.
I think that was her. I think I was shooting with her. That
yeah.
day.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, how funny.
But my point is, like, I don't want to play catch up.
Right.
Like, life is just for somebody to like, and I say this again, like you and me, and again, it's relative for all these people, because I think movie stars have the same issues for sure.
They do.
But you and I are more susceptible to somebody saying, "Oh, that offer fell through for the other guy.
Right.
Can you come and do this next week?"
Yeah, there's 7 people who can greenlight a movie, and then the rest of us have to do what you're talking about.
Sure.
should be doing what you're talking about.
Well, yeah, I'm saying I don't want to play catch up. I don't want to be learning the Irish accent like 3 days before because Cillian Murphy fell out of that project.
He's
you know?
so good.
He's so good.
Yeah.
And guess
Just
what?
drop-
I'm so good.
drop
So
your-
I'm not going to lose an opportunity.
Drop your H's from your
Yeah.
TH's.
But you
Start there.
understand my point. And I also think it's just applicable to, I think that this same conversation is applicable across the spectrum for anybody's profession. You just never know what your next opportunity is going to be.
Yeah, figure out what you want to do. Start there.
Sure.
What kind of thing do you want to do? And actually, whether it's a vision board or manifest destiny, create your own world around that thing you want to do. So if it involves physical training, it involves acts, whatever it is you want to accomplish at some point. And so that not only are you prepared when that interviewer for that periodical that somehow still exists asks you, what role would you always like to do? You've already got the answer to that, and you've already prepared for it. You're making it happen with your own involvement in work. Let's get back to why I'm one of your favorite people.
Okay, yeah.
Because I'm not sure we actually got the answer.
Handsome, talented, funny,
no.
good poker player.
You play poker in my house.
I have.
You
I
have.
had too many cocktails at your house. I played a little loose, and I ended up doing well. It was probably it was a very bad lesson for me to learn. Apparently,
To play loose and do well.
Well, it's overindulged in some dark liquor and throw my money around. I love poker. I have a really good time playing poker.
Do you have a regular game you play,
I
or
do
just
not,
whenever?
not at all. And I keep trying. You know how frustrating it is when you text me because I know the game's going to be exciting, and I haven't been able to make it since that time.
Oh no, it's fine. It's ongoing. In fact, it's been going now since I got this new house.
Where's the new?
Same one, Mar Vista. Yeah,
I love that place.
Yeah, I'll put the address on the
beautiful.
website.
Come on by, Kevin Pollak says. Give it a visit.
I'm excited for this trip to Ireland. Let's jump to that.
Well,
The
I did
families
that.
Go.
I did the trip to
Oh,
Ireland.
that was before.
And guess what? I came back and I got the job. And now look, but I'm also you can't operate with that feeling though. Like you have to operate with it. If I don't get it, that's fine too.
But you just laid out one of the reasons I love Jonathan Tucker, because you told this story, and you commented earlier about how you complimented yourself within the earlier story. But just now,
The only point
you
of
told
my
a great
story,
story
yes.
that did not end with, and then of course I booked the bitch.
Well, yeah,
you did not say that.
Because if truly you cannot live in this business or in this town
Right.
or in your life with the end result
Results.
being, you just can't.
It's the journey, baby. So
But the journey also has to be it has to be. People say that all the time, and it's again people will talk about goals all the time, but people don't learn how to set specific goals. So they say, for instance, I want to be better at shooting a jump shot in basketball.
right.
I want to be. It's okay. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
That's my goal. That's my goal. I want to be better at free throws. What does that mean?
Yeah.
If you don't know how to break that down into basically a process goal. So if there's 4 steps to shooting a free throw, elbows high being one of them, you shoot 100 free throws with your elbow high, and as long as your elbow's high, it doesn't matter if the ball goes in.
You got your elbows out.
You got your elbows high. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So in terms of a process goal, going to Ireland, spending time with my family, that's the goal here. My goal is to live a full, realized life.
But I do want to hear a couple things about the trip, please. I've never been.
Oh, it was life
Been
changing
throughout Europe, but I've not been to Ireland, and it kills me.
because my mother is Romanian, Eastern European Jew.
I've got Jew written down,
Yeah, Jew. My dad is Irish Catholic,
up and down.
up and down. He's 6'5", 230. My mom is 5 feet tall and 100 pounds. It's a great combination. I pull into the Dublin airport, and I look around, and I swear to God, I couldn't. And now my dad, again, 6'5", 230, big dude. Everybody in Dublin, there was 20 guys in Dublin that looked exactly like my dad in the airport, with the exact same receding hair.
Crazy.
And, it was crazy. I'm like, oh, these are my people. These are for sure my people. Also, the whole pub culture, completely my style. I felt a real strange kinship to Ireland. For the first time in my actual life, I felt like I truly understand Boston. And I thought I understood Boston before because that's where I grew up. I grew up in a real working class Irish enclave called Charlestown. And I put Boston and Charlestown into a context I had never known before. Mm-hmm. And then I really felt this understanding of what does it mean to have people. I really felt that. It was crazy. I also don't like the sun. There's so for and I don't like the heat. So I'm a cave
You could
person.
live
I'm
in-
a bog guy. Yeah.
you
I
could
could
live
live
in
in
it.
Ireland. I was alive. And the cliffs of some of these coastal towns and sites are jaw-dropping.
So you drove all around and
Yes.
saw all the sites. How long were you there? A week?
A week.
Yeah.
I'm into week trips.
Yes.
I'm ripping a week because I'm pretty consistent physically here in LA and in terms of diet. So like I sleep pretty consistently. I'm like a machine here. And then I can like rip a week where I don't sleep and eat whatever I want. And then I just come right back and I'm like kind of good to go.
Yeah.
After a week, I start falling apart.
Sure. You got that figured out too.
Yeah, I got that figured out.
And you're not yet 35. End of the month.
36 into the month.
Oh.
Isn't that wow? That's 14 to 50, buddy.
You're not 82?
Coming like a freight train. Yeah.
You are 82.
That is, yeah.
That's right, because Jamie, my better half, is 82 also. I raised her as one of my own. She's corn-fed. You met her at the house, I
did.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, you're a lucky guy. She's wonderful.
She is damn hot, terrific, and would never agree to any of
but
this.
Ireland's definitely worth you visiting. It really is, and you better understand the troubles, the history of Ireland, the contemporary history in particular.
Yes.
With London, my wife is from. She was raised in London, so she has a very different perspective because
Sure.
I grew up with the give a penny, take a penny at the corner store for the Irish Freedom Fund, like literally.
That's right.
Literally. It's crazy, like these guys are dealing drugs and for sure they're getting rich in Boston, but they're also like kicking that money back for arms to be sent over for the cause.
Yeah.
And that's a very different perspective to have than my wife, who's like scared to go to school because they're blowing up, buildings.
Didn't you kind of play a Southie in the Black Donnellys?
I played. That was in New York, but
New York.
the Showtime pilot. I'm playing. Guess what? I'm
Yeah.
playing a guy from Charlestown.
Yeah, you are.
From the '90s, the decade in which I know it best.
It's crazy.
It's crazy, guy. It's also crazy because it's like, as an actor, you're thinking like, oh yeah, it's easy to go back to your neighborhood. It's easy to go back to Boston. It's easy to go back to like the actual blocks of where I grew up. Oh yeah, I'm sure people are going to be like, oh, how easy. You didn't have to do much work for that one. It's like, it's crazy when you start excavating in your own backyard. It's like, ooh, I didn't want to pull that one up. Or ooh, I don't quite realize that was there. It was a much more challenging. You can be more clinical if you're like going, for me, if I was say going to Chicago in the 90s, I could be much more clinical about the research as an actor.
Sure.
It was a lot less clinical and therefore significantly more challenging. But the pilot turned out great.
I don't think I knew before I got into the research that you started not only very, very young, but with the Boston Ballet.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah, well.
How does that happen for a kid from that
Here's
working
a great
class
story.
neighborhood?
Here's a great story of like, because like politically I'm very independent, and I love when you can tie in some of these not conservative principles to like liberal causes, but I like finding middle ground. And there is a large baking company, like a bakery, like I want to say like a La Brea bread.
Sure.
Right? But it's a little more working class up there in upstate New York, called Freihofer's. Great company, great cookies. But they're like a big local, regional bakery company.
Very successful.
Very successful. And they paid for all kids under 12 and like all senior citizens to go to the ballet and the Philharmonic and the Boys Choir of Harlem, things like that, up in Saratoga Springs, New York, which is where my parents had a summer house, a little summer house in this beautiful town. It's like a real summer place. So my grandmother would be able to bring. They paid for the lawn tickets, so like the cheap seats, right? But it's great because you'd go out there at night and you put a blanket down and you get to watch from far away. You'd literally bring binoculars, but you'd watch, some incredible the New York City Ballet. It's their summer residency. So I'd watch the New York City Ballet with my grandmother
As a 10, 11, 12-year-old.
as a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old, right? Wow. And God bless Freihofer's Cookies, because Freihofer's Bakery, because they. My grandmother couldn't afford the tickets to go. It was free for her. It was free for me. Sat in the lawn, and I came back to Boston. I was like, I want to do ballet. I want to do real ballet. I don't want to do cartwheels. I want to do real ballet. And I ended up kind of on this like professional track for the Boston Ballet at an incredible point for that company when they were working with people like Mark Morris and Twyla Tharp and Alvin Ailey. And it was a magical period for me, and certainly got me attuned to casting, for instance, as in, when you're 8 years old and like you get this big role and then like 2-3 years later you don't get the role. I mean, it's like heartbreaking when you're 8 or 9, 10 or 11. So it steals you. And you learn, by the way, a lot of times, these costumes are like 100 years old from Russia. And if you don't fit the costume anymore,
You don't get the
you
part.
don't get the part. So
Stay in shape.
welcome. Well,
You were
stay
dieting?
in shape, kid.
Thought you were
No, I
dieting
meant
at
to say
9.
actual height. Height, Kevin, you son of a gun. But it's like be there on time, listen, keep your mouth shut. It's like shocking how sometimes these really simple things allow you to work a lot, you know?
Yes, of
I was
course.
saying the other day, and this is a similar thing about you, a lot of people, they're looking at a few different people like to hire for a role.
Yeah.
Shockingly, showing up on time, right?
Knowing your
your
lines,
lines, okay? Being nice to be fun to be around. Kevin Pollak shows up on time, knows his line. He's fun to be around. He's fun.
You
He's
win.
fun to have.
You win.
And if we're shooting up in, in some little location somewhere, or we're going to be together for a while, and with your show, you're going off doing press, you're in interviews with other cast members and crew members. You're nice to be around, man.
Just have fun.
It's shocking how let's just start there.
Yeah.
And then you start adding in the magic and you start adding in the quality of the work, which is critical. But, bad behavior and bad habits, they can get you so far, and you can burn pretty hard, pretty bright for a while. But I really think it catches up to you.
Yeah, it actually breaks my heart to see that sort of bad behavior because it's steeped in insecurity, heavily, heavily steeped in insecurity. Most of the time in my experience.
It doesn't matter though if you're steeped in insecurity if you're the person on the receiving, you're the PA who's getting yelled at.
So there's no excuse.
Names. It's terrible.
There's no excuse at all. Oh, my heart's going to break faster for the PA getting yelled at. Let me be clear about that.
Yeah. But I'm saying the PA doesn't care if it's insecurity. They're like, Jesus, I just brought some tea out. I don't know why you're like yelling at me about it in front of everybody.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Where did they shoot the Westworld program?
We shot up in Santa Clarita.
Oh yeah.
I've been up there a bunch, man, the past few years. It's
I
crazy.
did not know it shot so locally.
Yeah, locally, but it does take like 2 hours.
Oh, yeah,
to get up
yeah,
there.
no,
Like, these are deep ranches. There's like, I don't know, a half dozen ranches that are now still owned by the same families.
But when they show the wide open spaces on the show,
a lot of those, we shot
Shut
a lot of those, and you'd be shocked. And I just shot a thing up there where it was for Columbia. We landed in an actual plane on like a dirt tarmac up there, and it looks
like you're set in Columbia.
Yeah, like the country Columbia.
Wow.
Yeah, it's wild. And it looks you can look 360 degrees, 360, do a full spin, and you're looking at like miles and miles of just mountains, nothing up there. It's cool. It's incredible. They do also go and shoot they shoot in Utah and Monument Valley and places like that too, but not very much.
Right.
Significantly less than you think.
Yeah, no, that's going to be a couple of exterior establishing shots, and let's get back to the.
Yeah, it's funny.
There
It's
sound
funny when you
stages?
go. There are sound stages,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Also up in Santa Clarita.
Yeah.
It's funny when you go to work. You're sitting in that traffic. I'm thinking of Hostage too. When we shot up in that house in Malibu, and you're like, you jump in your car at like 4:00 p.m. and you just sit in traffic to go to work, and you work all night. And you're like, oh my god, what an exhausting day. Same thing on Westworld. And then you get back in your car at 7 a.m. and you're just
Back
in
in
traffic
traffic.
again. It's so funny. It's so funny.
You're supposed to be going the other way, but
exactly.
it's still.
Yeah. But again, it's the same sort of thing about like what we're talking about in terms of habits. Like you have to have a good attitude. You'd be shocked that you tell yourself before you're going out there, man, I'm going to be in the rain. It's going to be cold. It's going to be all night. It is not going to be fun. Your clothes are going to be wet.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be grumpy, and you're going to throw on a huge smile, and you're
right.
going to tell them you're going to be like, boy, we're going to have a good time. Let's get back out in that water, boys. What do you say? Let's get back out in that water. Come on now. Let's do another take. Why not another one?
Yeah.
And you can change people's energy. You can change people. You can change the dynamic of that set.
Where did you? Who inspired that in you?
That's a great. I don't know. My mom's very positive. I think but I also just think.
It came from somewhere.
I know, but I think you start learning. You just start seeing it's like there's two ways to deal with things.
But those positive examples were set by.
Yeah, for sure, my mom and dad. But I also see it in work. I mean, I'm not blowing smoke here. Like you're a positive spirit on set, Kevin. You just are. You're funny. You give your impressions. But you also like when they say action, you're good to go. Like you do the work.
Right.
But like you get to start seeing like these patterns around. I mean, look, as I said, I've been doing this for 24 years now. Like you just start to say who continues working and who doesn't, and what seems to be successful and what doesn't, and ultimately, less even the exterior, more like how it makes you feel.
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to be going to a miserable situation of 2 nights under like rain tarps or whatever, outside in the mud with horse manure, dragging myself through dirt for 2 nights in a row. Like we can either make this a fun experience or not, because it's happening either way.
Yeah.
So let's just let's deal with this in a positive way, because you'll literally feel better.
Well, these are just great life things.
For sure. But for sure,
Yeah.
I see it over and over and over again across the board, and that's why I'm fascinated by like sports psychology. I'm really interested in. I was at one point earlier this year was reading 3 books. One was on the craft of acting. One was on kind of the first Navy SEAL urban combat teams in Iraq, and the other was about the mental conditioning coach for Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. And I swear to God, it's on my Kindle, and I'm toggling through the 3 books at different points, and I don't know which book I'm reading. And we're talking about men and women going into urban combat and special forces in an environment they're totally unfamiliar with, under fire from a totally unfamiliar enemy. And I'm reading the same book about Kobe Bryant and how he's dealing with playing in a championship game. And then I'm reading a book about how do you create a character and bring those skill sets to set. And I'm literally toggling through the books. I don't know which one's which. I mean, it's all the kind of all this stuff is really the same. How do you breathe, man?
Right.
In a stressful situation, what are the habits that you create so that in a time in which everything's falling apart, what do you resort back to?
Yeah.
And people are so quick to have not work on habits because they're like everything's going great. It's like, but everything's not always gonna be going great.
So walk me through as objectively as you can. You and the missus, God bless, dead asleep.
Yeah.
3:30 a.m.
Yeah.
There's a sound in the house. I don't know if it's an upstairs, downstairs situation.
Yeah.
But there's a sound that is very distinct.
You know I'm an actor. I just want to go back to the first book was on acting, but go ahead. I'm not a Navy SEAL.
I know you're not, but I am curious.
Yeah, I hear a sound.
You hear a sound that is very distinct.
Yes.
It is a sound of a person clearing their throat.
Okay.
It's not anything else.
Oh, well.
It's not the creak of wood. It could be the house settling. It is a human clearing of a throat.
Sure.
And then it's still a good distance away, but it is inside the domicile.
Yeah.
First move, first thought. What's happening?
I feel badly saying this, because again, my father's a union guy. He's 35 years at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, art history. Come from Kennedy country, Boston. I am very disappointed in our current political crisis. But I do have a gun in my house.
You do. And is it locked in a little safe?
It is locked as it is supposed to be.
So your first move is to hit the code.
My first move would be to very quietly get up and receive some backup. But I also would be pretty vocal about getting out of the house. And I would hope that my yelling would, and maybe the sound of that shotgun and the chambering would be enough to have somebody. I'm not a shoot first, ask questions later.
So is it set the weapon, make that distinct sound,
Yes.
and then say, this can go one of 2 ways?
Oh, I'd be yelling and screaming, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I like it.
Yeah.
Not only
is that a bad? What do you think?
there's
about that?
none of those are bad things.
But I really do believe I'm into having a meaningful conversation about gun control. I genuinely am. There's a lot of things that could and should change, but I also feel like if somebody's entering my home in the middle of the night with my wife lying in bed, we're gonna have a really serious problem.
Yeah.
I'd love you to leave first, by the way. I'm not interested in killing anybody. I'm not a great sleeper.
Or even firing the weapon.
I would love to not fire the weapon.
Please, let's not fire the weapon. Not only is Paul Hayes Tucker 6'5" and apparently has a receding hairline, he's considered by many to be the world's foremost authority
Wow.
on Monet
You're doing good. You're doing
and
digging
French
in there.
Impressionism art.
Indeed, yeah.
So not just an art historian,
That's true.
he's taken it to another level.
Yes, but I will say when he does die, which I hope is not for a long, long time, he will tell you he'll say when his obituary is written, the thing he's most proud of is teaching at UMass Boston.
Right.
Because he had the opportunity to teach at some other schools, significantly more prestigious. But the average age of his class in Boston at UMass was 27 years old. He had people coming in there who had to take 2-3 buses to get there. And this is our history, just so we're clear. This is not like auto repair, or like things that are clearly applicable to your life. So I remember many times when I had a snow day and he's like, I'm going. It's like, why are you good? It's like this. He's like, because there for sure will be a few people who are going to go who have negotiated childcare or taken some time off of a job where they don't always know their schedule. And he's like, I'm not going to, not show up. Cool.
I mentioned earlier there might have been some people setting examples for you.
Yes.
I think we just
walk
through one. Your mom founded a world-renowned marketing firm.
I love Wikipedia. Is this Wikipedia? I love this.
Is this incorrect?
No. I don't know if it's world renowned.
I wrote world renowned.
I love that. She worked.
I decided.
I love it. Good.
After saying that she created one of the first virtual workspaces as part of her firm.
True. That is absolutely true.
That to me sounds like we're already on the World Wide Web, and that suggests world renowned.
It was. She really did create this business of like PR. She mostly worked with. She did like Curious George, for instance, and a lot of other like young, products for young people, and books and things like that.
I saw a fascination with toys.
Toys
within the body of her
children's toys in particular.
Yeah.
But she designed her business around like being able to move with my father because he would kind of be around the world at times dealing with paintings and curating and things like that. And it turned out to be very good for going around with me when I started working as a kid. So like using the fax machine early on and email early on. Yeah, that's funny. I never thought about that.
Cutting edge stuff.
Cutting edge stuff back then.
But I was surprised to find the other thing we had in common was a Jewish mother. So what was the religion in the house? Was there much? Because mine was so lax.
Yeah,
we're California Jews, so we're practically Catholic.
Yes, my dad is definitely a recovering Catholic.
Sure.
So he has a very difficult time stepping into any organized religion. But there was like 4 families that moved into Charlestown in the mid '70s, right after the busing riots in Boston, when Charlestown was really it was fiercely insular, and a number of families that moved in in the mid '70s were Jewish. So I kind of had like a little Jewish cadre association there within this Irish Catholic community.
Were there holidays or just?
Yeah, the high holidays, sure. But super casual and super relaxed. I didn't get bar mitzvahed. But the big things I think I take away from Judaism, things that I like a lot, is, I love like questioning, because that's so not a part of Irish Catholic tradition. That drove my father crazy. Having the youngest kid ask the table
4 questions.
Yeah, I mean it seems so silly, like not a big deal, but it's revolutionary in other traditions. I mean, that the youngest kid has the opportunity to ask and to like push back and to say, and that's rewarded in Jewish culture.
Right.
I love that. I just love that. And education and family obviously super important. But I've also I went to Jerusalem and I was deeply affected by the Christian tradition there. I mean, like. I didn't really know those stories the way that I should have, even academically.
Right.
And it was super frustrating for me. Like, how did my parents make all these sacrifices to send me to these wonderful schools, and I didn't know we're gonna go see where John the Baptist maybe baptized Christ for the first time, but I'm like, yeah, I kind of get it, but I don't really know those stories. I don't really know Jesus the man or Jesus of Nazareth versus Jesus Christ. I don't really know what the Via Dolorosa was, all those different steps. It was crazy to me. I got all this money pumped into my intellectual education, and yet one of the most important books in the history of humanity I'm not even generally familiar with.
Yeah.
It's just so frustrating.
So maybe add that to the toggling on it.
I did. I went to, I spent a year and a half. I did, I found, by the way, Presbyterians very accommodating.
Really?
Really? You love, oh my God, yeah, you're from Boston, Irish Catholic, Jew. What questions do you have for us? Let's talk about it. Yes, I did Sunday school, adult Sunday school for a year.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was great. It was great. And, again, we're all communicating, as a species here, and these are big stories. They're big stories, and we need to know them. And
how about all the vernacular and euphemisms that are still used commonly that come out of the Bible. It's kind of extraordinary. It's either Shakespeare or the Bible. One of those two have given us almost every extremely well-known euphemism.
Yeah, and the symbolism and like the stuff that you can incorporate into your own work. Like, let's really talk about Father, Son, Holy Ghost. Let's talk about trinities. Let's talk about ritual cleansing. Let's talk about forgiveness and resurrection and mercy. All those things are really important.
Right.
And for lots of things, they're great for work as an actor. I mean, because you start finding, if we're going to talk about stories and big stories that we're all dealing with, or telling or interacting with, like those are coming up in your unconscious too for writers. And so these are coming up as symbols and themes, and we should be familiar with the original stories so that we can start finding them in the text that you and I are working with.
Right. And also just circling back to do unto others. I mean, it does kind of begin and end there for me, getting back to the work ethic and how to treat people.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, looking at, you don't need to be Christian to look at Christ, to look at the story of Jesus and not be like, oh, this is arguably one of the best examples that we have on this scale of how to live your life. And yet I look at my grandparents who named my father Paul, and I learned a lot about Paul. Let me tell you, Paul was not a good dude for a long period of time before he, quote, found Christ. I mean, that guy was murdering early Christians. He was a real son of a gun. So I gave my dad, I was like, Pops, maybe you didn't teach me a lot about this because I would have learned more about your namesake. When you read, like, you go to a wedding, you read Paul's letter to the Corinthians. They only read like one paragraph in there. He is scalding them. And for the reprimands are like he is just fanatical.
Really?
You would not sell Christianity on Paul's letter to the Corinthians. He is just outrageous in many respects. He is so mad. Like, bro, be a little less mad, be a little more forgiving.
Loving and forgiving.
And they always read that, right? They always read that paragraph about what is love. I mean, it's like one paragraph. You got to read the letter. It's just he's real mad. Paul is real mad.
They leave that part out?
They leave the whole letter out. They read you one part about it.
Yeah. It sounds, I don't know any of this.
So you got to read it. If you want anything, just read that letter. He's so pissed off.
Crazy curious
He's
now.
so mad.
Can I tell you my favorite Last Supper joke?
Please.
Okay.
Because I have to say, I laughed pretty hard at the dog joke. Coming out of this conversation about the New Testament.
Not too dissimilar, yeah.
What's the Last Supper joke?
So Jesus addresses everyone there, the disciples, and he says, you should know that before the night is over, one of you will betray me. And then they begin the meal, and one by one, the disciples come up to Jesus and whisper in his ear. First, let's say Paul, "Is it me, Jesus? Is it me?" And Jesus says, "No, Paul, it is not you." And the next one comes up. Let's say Peter, "Is it me, Jesus? Is it me?" "No, Peter, it is not you." And again, this goes on for quite a while, one at a time. And finally, towards the end, Judas comes up and says, "Is it me, Jesus? Is it me?" Jesus says, "Is it me, Jesus? Is it me?"
Very well done. Very well done.
The idea that Christ would mock someone in such a way is why that makes me laugh.
Can I conclude before you move on to the next one?
Please.
The other thing I learned in Jerusalem was I understood for the first time that Jesus was a Jew. That was something I really didn't appreciate.
You knew, but you didn't understand what that meant.
Yeah, I didn't understand what that meant. He's a fanatical Jew.
Well, see, this is one of the things that helped me to wrestle with, I grew up in a time when there was a lot of finger pointing, maybe remains strong to this day, at the Jews in terms of Jesus' demise.
Right.
And it was a big, and again, probably remains.
Well, look at the history of the Vatican with this. It's just despicable.
Yeah. So, but in terms of wrapping my own brain around it, when I too, at a young age, found out Jesus was a Jew, it suddenly all fell into place because you've got someone breaking from the ranks who, in the time, must have felt like a little bit like one of the first hippies. He's in the woods. He's talking a new conversation about love and forgiveness, having nothing to do with the teachings of the religion. At the time, the rabbis were the politicians.
They were making the money too. Making the money.
They were not only making the money, but they
Have
were.
the power.
Let's be clear. They were the politicians.
Yeah.
They ran everything. Also, my first discussion on Jesus being killed by the Jews, he was born in the center of Jewtown. There was nothing but Jews as far as the eye could see. So naturally, we called the Italians, the sheriffs,
Right.
for the actual hit. So the discussion of whether it was the Romans or the Jews, let's be clear, the politicians of the time said, this guy in the woods speaking this other conversation, he's got to go. He's got to go. He threatens our very fabric of keeping control of the people through our conversation. So it all just sort of made sense to me, and not only of him being having this sort of awareness that just didn't exist at the time. This sort of loving and forgiving wasn't part of anyone's conversation. As you have done your own reading. And
A little bit John the Baptist, though. He was kind of a hip cat.
For sure, right?
He was kind of like the early Christ in some, like in terms of the philosophies.
Oh yeah.
I just, by the way, can I just say, I just wish I wish you
know,
know,
I've known this.
But I'm like, how am I, man? Look how old I am, dude. Why am I not learning this? Having this conversation.
But you already have the advantage over a great many who are older than you who still don't know.
So.
No, seriously.
But even as a Jew, you need to why are they not teaching this? This should be talked about. I mean, Christ should be talked about in a temple, just as the sake of education.
Yeah.
Just for, if nothing else, for education.
Historical facts is what I'm looking for.
Well, there's what's Reza Eslan has this book called Zealot, and he basically separates Jesus Christ from Jesus of Nazareth. And the man versus so he says something like, he'll be like, well, how much was the average carpenter making at the time? And what could that buy you? Well, he was a carpenter at this time in this part of the city, and this is how much he probably made, and these are the sort of trappings one would have. And he kind of extrapolates all this historical facts, and then applies it to understanding Christ's life or Jesus' life, and it's fascinating.
Yeah.
He looks at all the historical records with the Romans. So he's we know how the Romans dealt with prisoners. We know exactly because there's a written record of it, and he was no different in many respects from those prisoners. Yeah, he turned out to be pretty different in the end, but
yeah, as it turns out.
I just turned your show into a religious show, by the way.
No, listen,
I feel like Colin Hanks was, he brings the fire to the show. Me, I'm bringing religion. I'm feeling a little badly.
But so far we haven't spoken much about actual religion and what religion stands for, which is why we're continuing to talk about it.
Good. Otherwise, Kevin Powell
not so much.
This thing off.
In fact, when it comes to the Immaculate Conception, my heart goes out to Joseph on that particular story.
Yeah.
He's out there busting ass, keeping a roof over everybody. He comes home to his virgin wife, and she's what?
Yeah.
With who?
Yeah, it's God's child, Kevin.
But see, to me, again, Joseph was the first one who had to bite a ginormous bullet for the team because he came home to his virgin wife, and somebody got there first, and that somebody, according to her, was the Lord. Now, most fellas
it'd take a period of digestion to understand this.
You sure you're going to go with that? Because that's a pretty big swing. The Lord got there before me. You sure it wasn't somebody from in town whose ass I can kick? You're going to stick with the Lord?
That's
by the way, also, the Lord, who I'm guessing had his choice of every woman on the planet.
Chose you? Yeah, that's right. Even if it is the Lord, he's taking my wife. That's funny.
So Joseph, my heart goes out to him.
That's funny. You could do a whole riff on this, by the way, Kevin. You do. You've got a whole early Christianity.
No, just that particular passage.
Let's put Pollock. He's already got some good early Christian riffs.
He's got the good book material.
That's funny.
I have a couple of questions.
You play a good Jew on the Marvelous Mrs.
Maisel.
Yeah.
I haven't played this Jewy of a guy ever.
He's Jewy.
I took my whole life. And the brilliant writing of the Amy Sherman and Dan Palladino. I was saying to you earlier, you get words this good, you just kind of get out of the way. Not to take anything away from what I'm.
You told me you wrote all of them yourself.
Capable of. This is one of the first jobs ever where I am
just kidding.
Sit back and.
I know. Yes, you
no,
because
you did say that. On Hostage, I did make some suggestions. You're accepted into Columbia University, chose to pursue the acting full-time. Couple of questions. How soon after gaining entrance to that storied university did you make that decision?
Well, I deferred for the year. I applied early, and then I deferred, so pretty quickly. My aunt and uncle went to Columbia. And it turns out my great-grandfather was the head of the history department at Columbia, Carlton Hayes. Now, I failed to put that down on my application. And I remember when I turned in the application, because I went to boarding school out here in California. And
At Ojai?
In Ojai. And I shoot my mom and dad a copy of the application. They're like, so you didn't – when it said do you have any connection to the school? And I was like, nah. Not me.
You chose.
I forgot. I didn't even think about it. I don't know. It didn't occur to me.
That is why you wanted
so
Jonathan
funny.
Tucker. He will tell you straight up, I forgot.
Well, I mean, I should. It was a real short. It was short-sighted.
Yeah, a little knuckleheaded.
Yeah.
So in that 1 year that you're...
In that 1 year, well, September 11th happened that year, and this town shut down pretty hard. Everything kind of really got...
the world as well.
World,
but yes.
Yeah, world changed, and I was deeply affected by it. I even had a kind of a big kind of coming out movie for me up at Toronto that premiered on September 12th. So that was probably not.
Was that the 100 Girls?
No, it was called. I can't remember. They changed the title, but it was with David Strathairn. It's called Ball in the House at the time, but I think they changed David Strathairn and Jennifer Tilly, and it was a troubling period to be up at the Toronto Film Fest with that movie, and I flew back to New York then. But I basically just spent the whole year in class in 2001, an acting class, and lived off the money that I had made
in New York
earlier.
Or out here?
Out here in LA.
Out here in LA.
And then I started working again in 2002, 2003.
Yeah.
But I've had, look, as I said, I had this period where I tested for 30 pilots, man, 3.5 years, and didn't get any of them. 30 pilots to test for a pilot. Most people, for your listeners, will come out to LA as an actor, and you'd be like, so how did it go during pilot season, this time when they cast all the actors for the TV shows, and then you shoot these things called pilots of one episode, and then the networks determine whether that gets in order for a series or not. And you'll ask an actor how to go, and they'll be like, oh, pilot season went great. It was incredible. I tested for a pilot. Didn't get it, but tested for it. And that's considered success. I test for 10 in a year, man. 10 in a few months.
No, just one more point of clarification for the audience. Testing means not only did you make the final cut to go in for a part, where they whittled it from hundreds down to a handful, but in order to test in front of the network, your deal has been negotiated.
Oh, yeah.
That is a huge factor because you've had conversations with your agent or manager or both about the monies you'll be earning on a weekly basis should this testing go your way. So that's in your head too. It's not like you're just going to an audition that is down to the final 5. You've also got to sign the papers before you go in.
Yep.
So you've got all this what if crap in your noggin.
I got no money, and if I get this job, my whole life will turn around. I did it for 3.5 years, Kevin. I literally.
For 30 would pretty much shut down your average bank.
The only regret I have from that period, which is funny because there should be many regrets, but the only regret is that I don't have a YouTube montage of picking up the phone from my agents and manager, and they're just being like, "It's not going further. I'm so sorry, it's not going further. It's not going further. It's not going further."
So shoot that. Shoot that. It
Dude,
doesn't have to be historically correct.
I started feeling bad for them. I'm like, I feel bad that you're having to make this call.
Yeah. Do you want to drop me?
But part of me, and I did. I lost. I didn't really, but I did. When your own agents aren't really returning your phone calls, it was so challenging. You really got to know who you are at that point because it is just petrifying. And I, in retrospect, I really do believe there's this little example that my old acting coach used to use. He talked about every moment is a moment of truth in a scene, and you can break down a scene to maybe 100 moments of just little bits of communication, right. Smallest amount of words or a gesture, something that can communicate one thought or idea. And he'd say, you're just dropping these little moments of truth into a bucket, and it's like beautiful, clean water. And the problem is that most actors will fill up that bucket and they don't think it's enough. And so they look around and real quietly they unzip their pants and they squeeze one little drop of piss into the bucket. Just one. But there's thousands of drops in there at this point. Hundreds of drops. It's filled up to the brim with clean, fresh water. But now you've pissed in it. One drop. No one wants to drink that thing. And so many people just don't think they're enough, in all across the board. But in acting, and I think that it's imperceptible. You might get away with it from time to time if somebody hasn't seen it. They're like, oh, yeah, it's good water. But, there's something about that glass of water I'm not drinking. I don't want to drink. And I think that's what ended up happening, to be frank with you. I haven't I've said this amongst friends. I haven't ever said this publicly, but like, I think that there was just a part of me that was looking to please, and you get more and more. The thing is, you get more. You want to please more and more. The less your opportunities you're getting, right?
The more you strike out.
The more you strike out,
the more
you're
you
gonna swing
think,
big.
you know what? Clearly, I'm doing something
Exactly.
wrong, so I'm going to do it the way I think they want me
Exactly.
to do it.
And you go, what do you want? You want me, I can do it like this. How was that?
And they
I can do it
smell
like this.
that when you come in the room.
They do.
Yeah.
They really do. Yeah. And then you get, and then
When did you learn to own the room? At what point did you realize?
I just got so beaten
down
so hard that I was like, forget it. I'm gonna walk in. I'm gonna do it. This is my time, my room.
Yeah.
And I got into a class where I was doing like more theatrical work, like on the stage. And at that point, you kind of own it, and you do all this work. You do so much work to get up on a stage. I had never done that before. I'd only done film and television, and then I was like, well, if I'm gonna, I just was like, fuck it, man.
This is
it's
my
time. Yeah, I walk in and I was like, this is what I'm doing.
When I'm on the other side and some actor comes in with that, it's night and day.
I just read this script the other day. Yeah,
Night and day.
I can't tell you how freeing it was for me. And then all of a sudden I go in for these things and I'm having a great time.
Yeah.
Because I don't care about you. I don't care. I'd love to do it.
You accept that it's a numbers game, and it's already kind of been worked out before you come in the room. So go in and do what you do.
It's my time.
Yeah.
But that was, I think, what it was. It's like, it's my,
Planting seeds. That's the other part that I would stress for young actors coming up.
Sure.
Every time you go up in front
planting
of
a seed.
people, you're planting a seed, not necessarily in this project, because I promise you, I've looked back through the list and said, remember the guy who came into the thing and changed my religion with the way he did that part, but he was 10 years too old? Get him in here. 100%.
Yeah, and you just when you go in there again, if it's for you, then it's like, even I went to New York a
Leave
few
your
months
mark.
ago. Yeah,
Leave
leave
your
your
mark.
mark. But for me, I don't care. Again, like, I'm not interested in your thoughts on me per se.
Whether you left your mark or not.
I'm interested in, am I going to have a good time? I go to New York. I went to New York the other day for this theater project. I really wanted to do this. I really want to do theater. I've never done theater before. And they asked me to do, it's like a 4-page monologue, man. I had to shut my life down.
Yeah, you did.
Everything gets canceled. Zero dark 30, man. I'm in, right? I fly to New York. It cost me 4 days here in LA to memorize this stuff. It cost me another full day in New York to memorize it there. And I walk in the room, and guess what? The moment I walk in, I can see it on all 12 people's faces. I'm not right for it. I just know it right away. And I'm like, well,
Try to articulate, if that's possible, how you knew it. Give me 3 telltale signs.
oh God, that's a great question. I don't know if I'll be able to.
Because it's
I'll really have to
instinctual.
think about
It's
it.
all instinctual. We feel it in our bones, especially if you've been around a couple decades. So it's real. I'm not questioning whether those instincts were real. But to be able to articulate them is such a challenge.
That's a great question.
I don't
I've
know
never
the
been
answer
asked that.
myself.
Yeah, you just see they're not
know.
connected. They're not. Their hands are on you for support, but they're not connected to like really getting a better understanding of what you're going to do.
Right.
So I walk in, I see that, I get it. I've flown 2,500 miles, spent 5 days getting this thing ready. I'm going to fly out of here this afternoon, back to LA. And I walk in, I realize I'm not going to get it. I'm like, well, I'm going to have a great time here.
Yeah, you are.
I'm going to have a great time. This is my room.
Yeah.
I have a big space.
Yeah, you do.
And I'm going to fill it, and I'm going to have a blast. And you're going to see all the work that I've done as if it's a class.
Yeah.
If it's I'm training.
That's the winning attitude.
And I had a blast.
Yeah, you did.
And I didn't get it.
I
knew I
promise
didn't get it.
But I promise you will be remembered for what you did in that room. Anyone who comes in and is able to pull that off, honestly, there's no stopping that from soaking into whoever is watching.
Yeah.
There's no stopping that. It's unattainable unless you do the work. But if you did the work,
It's unattainable if you haven't done the work. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's the premise. The amount of work you do allows you to have that freedom, and it allows.
And how
it to be
great did
fun
it
for
feel
you.
doing
Feel
it, by the way?
great.
Yeah.
I'm having a blast.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing that I'm not. I mean, even as I'm doing it, I can see I'm not getting it, but I have their attention.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
All you had was that room.
that's exactly right.
Put in all the work for that room.
Yep.
And you need to, on the flight home, you need to celebrate how well you felt you did.
Oh, I still celebrated as I walked out of there.
Yeah.
I mean, I even did the monologue for my buddy who had the offer for the West Coast version. I was like, I'm gonna walk through New York. I'm gonna give you my monologue. I'm not getting it, but I'm giving it to you. I had a great time. I had a total blast. It also goes back to like in terms of like being on set for me. My only communication, other than obviously with the actor, like
Right.
the only person I'm really interested in being happy, the only like big conversation I'm having is with the editor and myself.
Yeah.
And that's been very important and very empowering. Like I want everyone to be happy, and for the most part, we're having a great time.
Yeah.
The directors, we're collaborating, but ultimately, like if it was a stopgap sort of thing, it ends with the editor. And so I feel like that's been a really important part for me in terms of like my happiness for work.
Oh God, yes. We've ripped through an hour before you had a chance to even settle down and relax. But I do want to get to one thing. Although our age differences were enormous, we both, at very early points in our film acting career, were fortunate and lucky enough to be in the hands of the same writer-director, who I call the Phantom, because his directing style is not actually to direct, but rather, like after a take, if we were sitting here and this was the scene, this writer-director would come over and say, astonishing. So you're there, Jonathan and Kevin. You're in front of the microphones, and you're talking and action. And then we'd do the take again, and he would come over. Astonishing. Great. So you got the water there, you got the glasses, and you got that wrapped jar, whatever that is, and you're talking, and he'd go back. That's all he would do is come over and point out things, physical things. With my experience with
Barry Levinson.
With Barry Levinson.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
To me, it changed everything for me because it was a dramatic opportunity for me, the stand-up comedian who had no formal training, who just had an instinct and the ability to listen and be present without knowing those are the two
most important,
arguably most important, and not intimidated by the atmosphere, but rather just be present, and to have a director who never wants to see anyone acting. If anyone was schmacting, it made him a little nuts. And he would do everything he could to diffuse. My experience working with him, the other cast members were brilliant stage actors, and they all wanted to rehearse. And he said, no rehearsal. No, you go to lunches and dinners, you're a family, just get to know each other and hang out and you create your own stories, and that'll be it. You're, 10, 11, 12 years old when you did Sleepers? Mm-hmm. What do you remember anything from his?
Oh, I mean, that was just such an amazing project. And also, you got to do that Baltimore accent. It's so good. Because you got to do this somewhere. Because, Kevin Bacon did his Philly accent in Sleepers.
Yeah.
And I asked him, he says, that's the only time I've ever been able to really use it. And it was so good. People that don't do good Baltimore or Philly, you got to use that somewhere.
It's difficult.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, there was the exact same thing in terms of being a kid. I mean, he knew that we were 4 kids. And so there was so much camaraderie that he had built in that we were unaware of at the time.
Right.
Of getting to know each other and getting to play. I mean, it's all play. Yeah. And we had a really nice acting coach on that too, who had worked with Brad Renfro and that was communicating a lot with Barry. But he just creates the world and then allows everybody to play in it. And it doesn't happen if you don't do the work before, which is what you said. So the work before for us was a lot of like playing stickball and going out and hanging out together as a group of 4 and kind of understanding what our relationships were to each other. He was an amazing guy. That was an amazing movie to be a part of.
Oh, for sure. It was extraordinary. It's funny you mentioned the Baltimore accent because the movie I did for him, Avalon, was one of his 4 Baltimore set from his own life movies that he wrote and directed. And so when I came to talk about flying the audition, I brought the accent with me. And thank you for your compliment.
You did it?
Because I worked really hard on it. He said,
it's really good.
He said, what are you doing there with your voice? And I said, well, it's set in Baltimore. Yeah, but you don't have to do it. It's all right. I said, what do you mean? He said, no one's doing Baltimore in the movie, so it'd be weird if you were the only one. So everyone's just...
that's a bummer.
Well, for a guy who does voices...
Yeah. It's good. That's a good one. It's a hard accent.
Yeah. So, but he can't hear it. He doesn't hear it. In terms of if you do it to him, he'll go, what are you doing?
You got to use that somewhere. Yeah. It's so good.
I'll find...
But not as a joke.
No.
Here, Kevin Pollak is too good of an actor to only be doing comedic stuff. Remember A Few Good Men?
Oh, buddy.
God, he was
There's
good
no
in that.
avoiding it.
God, he was good in it. There's no avoiding it.
It's on every 14 minutes.
It's so good.
Tell me quickly about Pegasus Fund. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks. Yeah,
This is really extraordinary.
It's great. It was a Band-Aid, so to speak, from a problem that I saw in private secondary schools where they put so much money into this idea of like, we'll just pluck kids from underserved communities and bring them to these incredible high schools and expect them to succeed in the way in which some of these other kids who have come with a bit more of a ramp, so to speak, up to these high schools to succeed in the same levels. And essentially what we do, and I don't think I've seen it, that hasn't really worked out very well. So what we do is we've partnered really with the KIPP schools, which is the Knowledge is Power program. It's like the largest charter program in the country. They've got some incredible programs here in LA. And we take their best students and we commit to 3 summers up in the Puget Sound at a camp called the Four Winds Camp.
You commit in what way?
We commit to to covering the cost, the entire cost of those 3 summers. So that we're with them for 3 years, and then we're kind of like a SWAT team in terms of as much resources as we have and the needs that they present as a family, because there's just so many things that come up that one doesn't know about if they are given a lot of things, or have money. Like, how do you want your burger cooked is a great example. When I first started this thing 10 years ago, it's like I went out with this kid in Lynn, Massachusetts, and he's like, how do I want my burger cooked at this restaurant? What? Like,
what kind of question is that?
What kind of question is that?
Yeah.
And, if you end up going to a private secondary high school or onto college, you're gonna feel like an idiot not knowing that. You're gonna feel badly about yourself, and that's gonna all of a sudden, weirdly, how do you want your burger cooked? It's gonna affect like your
so these 3 years of the camps
your academics.
allow for these social skills to be
Yeah,
developed.
it's not exactly. It's like
away from the higher education aspect.
Yeah, so we take them in like 5th grade, and we bring them up till their summer of their 8th grade, and then they end up going to high school wherever they go. We focus on these kind of college preparatory schools. So by the time they get there, they've been around a group of people that is similar to the student body that they all end up going to high school with.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, by the way, it's like cheap. It's like super cheap. Doesn't cost a lot of money.
Right.
Not a huge amount of effort. They have a great time. They get to, it's a non-academic program. It's a month away, but it also helps like the family. Like there's all these other things that come up. Like the family, if they're going to be sending their kid to a boarding school back east from Los Angeles, which is what is going to be offered to these kids anyways, because we've identified them the same way that they're getting identified by a private secondary boarding school back east. If they're being identified and they're going to go, the family has to deal with the loss of that kid in the family as a unit too, just with jobs or chores in the family or helping out with things, and then the spiritual element of like we're actually miss our kid, and you don't need if for a private secondary school is going to be paying $50,000 or something for a young person's scholarship program. You don't need mom or dad being like, we missed you so much. Why did you leave us? Why did you abandon us? So by starting this idea that we're going to be selfless as a community and let these kids out of their community to then with hope come back and be leaders, right? Back home. We need to kind of start seeing that there's larger issues than just sending somebody to a school like that and thinking that they're just going to swim at 100 miles an hour.
They're fucking great. PegasusFund.com, is that where people find it?
PegasusFund.org.
.org. Okay. We just have enough time left now for Kevin's pop quiz. Between 5 and 15 points possible for each of the 3 questions. Once the final score is tabulated, it will be posted on our website along with the current standing of the top 100. Are you ready?
Me?
Yep.
Oh, geez, no.
Question number 1, Dave Koechner or Rob Riggle?
Oh, wow, man, goodness. I love Rob Riggle.
Correct. Question number 2, Carl Weathers or the weather in Carlsbad?
Carl Weathers.
Correct. And finally, last question, Keith?
Keith, yes.
That's correct.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
3 out of 3.
I got 3 out of 3.
Very
Love that,
impressive.
Keith. Yeah, thank you. I was worried there for a second. I was gonna get those gotcha questions.
No.
All right,
That's
good.
it.
I passed.
You killed it.
Thanks, man.
Thank you so much,
I
buddy.
love you. I'm on the show. I'll be here next week.
Okay.
I'll be making this. I'll fill in for Sam. I love
Please.
Sam.
Are you? What's your summer look like? What's your? Is there a time for us to actually have a meal?
Yes.
Okay.
And we'll invite Sam. Sam and I did a movie in Bucharest.
Oh, yes. I do know that, actually.
We had quite a time there. I got literally thrown out of a nightclub in Bucharest by two goons who were like the size of cars. I got actually thrown out, like you know, the vertical
Size of cars.
vertically
thrown out.
I got a Roger Rabbit, like the movie. Where
Yes.
he was thrown out of the nightclub at the end.
Yes.
That's what happened to me in Bucharest.
So then you have to come back.
I got to come back and talk about it with Sam.
Yeah, okay. Sit there uncomfortably for 19 seconds while I wrap things up. Mary, thank you so much for being our engineer today. She nodded without a microphone. And I thank Corey Levin, our post-production, all the folks here at Airwolf for allowing us these auspices yet again. Until next time, and as always, get out of my face.